Wings, etc. in Jackson today. And we are back in the banquet room. We've got lots of room back here. So if you have not made plans for lunch, stop on by. We would love to see you for lunch at Wings, etc. This will be the first of our 5 spring coaches shows. So we will be back in the normal rotation next week. We'll be back in Cape Girardeau, so we hope you can join us either today or maybe even next Monday. We'll be talking baseball with Red Hawks head coach Andy Sawyers, but we want to remind you that in addition to their award-winning menu, they've got over 70 menu items that are not wings. They've got a brand new revamped burger menu, which includes their new mushroom and Swiss diner burger. They have wraps, subs, quesadillas, entree salads, smoked ribs, and even more than that, their appetizer lineup includes their ultimate nachos, and they are big. That is a big plate of nachos. They're spicy deep-fried pickled chips, and if you're coming for lunch, their daily half-pound lunch specials start at just $7.99. And in addition to dining in here, you can call ahead, carry out. You can go online and get your order and come and pick it up. Or if you'd like to have the delicious Wings, etc. menu delivered right to your home, you can do it now with DoorDash. Just download the DoorDash app and set up your account. It'll take you just a couple of minutes, and you can go on the DoorDash app and look at the Wings, etc. menu and have it delivered wherever you are. It is the home of the Coaches Show. Wings, etc. Good food, great times. Let's talk great times right now for SEMO baseball. The Red Hawks are off to a 9-1 start to their season, and that is the best start since they went Division I in 1991. The only team that has started better than the 2022 Red Hawks were the 1983 Indians in the Division II days. They got off to a 10-1 start. Let's welcome the reigning OVC Coach of the Year, Andy Sawyers. Well, you got a hot ball club on your hands right now.
We do, and it's been a lot of fun. You know, last year we had to grind out a lot of wins with some really good pitching and, you know, some timely situational hitting and good defense, and we're starting to hit a lot more home runs, and those are fun. So it's been a good couple weeks at home.
So through 10 games last year, and this is a championship year, you had scored 42 runs through the first 10 games.
Yeah.
You have scored 103 runs through your first 10 games this season. What's the biggest difference?
Part of that was schedule, right? We had 4 games at Arkansas with last year, and Arkansas was the
every guy was throwing 95,
yeah.
and I had like 15 of them.
Yeah, and you know they were the number 2 ranked team in the country last year, so we had 4 games in the first 10 against them. But you know, it's just guys are getting older. You know, Andrew Keck's kind of turned into the player we always thought he was going to be. You know, he's been a good player and a productive player. We always thought he was going to hit for power one day. Well, the one day is now. You know, Javon Mason's starting to slug it. You know, last year I talked about his year where he missed most of the fall. He had COVID. He got contact traced. He broke his handmate bone. He basically didn't play baseball for a full year, and then he got healthy. We plugged him in the lineup, and he hit .350 with a lot of doubles, but we thought he could hit the ball over the fence. You've got, you know, Tyler Wilbur, his continuing process of just being a great hitter. You know, he came in, led the league in hitting a couple times, and I kept saying he's going to start to slug at some point. He's starting to slug now. You know, he's hitting the home run right now. And then, you know, some new guys like Joel Vasky in right field. Joel's hit maybe 3, I think. There's a young man, he was a junior college All-American, hit 15 in junior college. He's got big-time power. And then just, you know, Brett Graber, a young man
that's the guy. He was your best hitter this weekend.
He was. I mean, if he's not the OVC player of the week, I think Hansa needs to answer to somebody for that. But, you know, Brett Graber, really it's just a confidence and a maturity thing last year. It's not as if he has better bat speed and he's not like he hasn't gained 20 pounds. He's just more confident and self-assured, and he's really playing well for us. So I think it's, you know, some new players, but also just the maturation of our current roster.
I think Hinchman had a big weekend for Tennessee Tech. They play in that little bandbox, and I'm sure the wind was probably blowing out there too. I know he had a big weekend. I don't know if he'll be the guy, but Brett Graber's got to be in the discussion, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Graber's numbers over the weekend. 5 for 11, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 2 walks. So that means he's on base 7 times in the 2 games. He had an on base of 538 over the weekend. That is one good weekend.
And I think it's just the weekend. He had a good day against SLU on Tuesday as well. I think he had a bases clearing double maybe. So he had a pretty good week.
So that will be factored in on the Player of the Week voting. The guy right now, you talk about the middle of your lineup where you're getting your run production, where it's coming from Tyler Wilbur, and then Andrew Keck, Lincoln Andrews, and Brett Graber. Those guys are all driving in runs. You cannot drive in runs if there aren't guys on base. And right now, it is unbelievable. Javon Mason has a .509 on-base percentage, and Peyton Leeper, .480. So they are always coming up right now, your RBI guys, with runners on base.
Yeah, and Javon did that a year ago for us. He was our leadoff hitter in our championship club. Peyton Leeper is a big deal. You know, his maturation, his growth as a hitter. You know, obviously you called a lot of games when his older brother played here, and his older brother was just like Peyton. He was tough and competitive and gritty. And Peyton has been that kind of guy for us since he set foot on campus. He just hasn't got the level of production yet, and he's really made a good move. He's swinging the bat. He's a threat right-handed. He's a threat to leave the park at his first college home run this year from the right-handed side last week. But he just continues to be a tough, competitive at-bat, and he kind of knows his role, and he'll take his walks. And he's just, you know, the Leapers they're pretty tough kids, and Peyton's doing a great job in that table setter role for us right now. And I think people are going to be shocked because I think he's going to continue to hit some extra base hits for us this year.
You know, he's hitting .278. That's fine. But he has 14 base on balls. That's why the on-base percentage is so great. He's leading the league in walks. And you would think he's going to get pitches to hit because the best player in the league hits behind him.
Yeah, and he won't leave the zone. He and Javon have done a really nice job of not expanding the zone. You look at, I mean, I don't know how many walks Javon has, but with Leeper leading the league.
12.
So those two guys, I mean, they are taking their free passes. And, you know, when you have somebody like Javon who can hit a home run, Javon's got 3 home runs already, so you have a guy that can hit the ball over the fence. Sometimes those guys get overly aggressive, and I think Javon is a great mix of, you know, we talked last time about my favorite leadoff hitter of all time was Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson, more leadoff home runs than anybody in history, so he could lead the yard, but he also took his walks, and Javon is kind of that guy for us. I mean, I have a hard time putting a Ricky Henderson player comp on him, but Javon, he will take a walk, and if you throw a strike, he's not trying to hit a single. He's trying to put a charge into it. And those guys are kind of scary. You know, that guy can strike some anxiety into a pitcher first at-bat of the game. It's a guy who can hit the ball over the fence, and if you don't fill it up, you know, he'll take his walk. So he's a very tough out to lead off a game.
You know, it was a trivia question the other day. Ricky Henderson is the all-time Major League leader in leadoff home runs, okay, all-time, and it's by a pretty wide margin. Who is number 2? And, you know, I was thinking maybe Biggio because he batted. It's not. Alfonso Soriano is number 2 all-time in leadoff home runs. That surprised me.
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, neither would I. Anyway, so that's that. But power out of the leadoff spot, that is a luxury that not a lot of coaches have, right?
Yeah, and you know, one thing Javon's doing better too. He's running the bases better. Javon is a very good athlete. You know, a year ago he didn't get great jumps. That's probably not the strength of his game. He was kind of unsure of himself, but he's starting to get better jumps, and we're hoping that he can be a 25 extra base hit, 15 stolen base guy. So he's gotten better in a variety of areas.
Okay, for those who may not watch a lot of Red Hawk baseball, or maybe some that do, what is your philosophy? Because you can get aggressive on the base paths. You've got some guys that can run, and you're not one of those coaches, Earl Weaver, sit back, wait for the 3-run homer. You like to get aggressive.
Yeah, so I think for us, our style of play, we want to be aggressive in everything we do. So I think we talk to our players, there's 4 ways we can be aggressive. Number one, most important thing is, you know, strong guys in the box taking aggressive swings. You know, you're going to be aggressive with the bat, and then you're going to be aggressive with your athleticism. That's running the bases and stolen bases. You know, we recruit hard to get good athletes. We want those guys to play with freedom and be aggressive, so we want to be aggressive on the bases. And then we talk about being aggressive with skill, and that maybe it's a guy that doesn't have a ton of extra base hits but had the ability to drag, push, hit, and run. We want to have the guys who that is their game. We want them to utilize that piece and be aggressive with the short game and the skill game, and then style of play. And that would be just like hustle, you know, like you hit a ground ball, the shortstop, run your best time, get after it, make the other team play fast. And so we want our guys to be aggressive in those 4 areas of the game. And so we want to steal bases. We want to be aggressive with that stuff. However, when you're going good offensively, like we're going right now, I don't need to push the envelope. Like this weekend, I think against Bradley, where we hit all the home runs, I still think we went 4 of 4 stolen bases. I didn't think that their matchup 5 of 5. So we were 5 of 5 stolen bases. There was a couple times where I could have pushed it, but because the ballpark was playing small and we were swinging the bat well, I didn't need to gamble with that, and so we didn't really push it. We might have been maybe 7 for 10, or we could have gambled more. So we still want to run when the opportunity's there, but when you're going good offensively, you want to make sure you're not making unnecessary outs on the bases.
I didn't get a chance to talk to you because we had to go to the basketball game after the first game of the series against Bradley. But what I thought was very interesting, and I don't want you to comment on the umpiring, but I want you to comment on what the umpire did. Top of the second inning, they hit a long home run, and the guy pimped it a little bit. Okay, that's fine. That is becoming something we see a lot more in baseball. Bat flip, watched it, great. The next guy gets hit by Bryce Grotius. We're talking about the top of the second inning of a baseball game. It's the fifth batter, first game of a series. There's no bad blood between these schools. They haven't played in 7 years, and the umpire issues a warning on the fifth batter of the game. How surprised were you? Because I don't know that I've seen you get out of the dugout any quicker. And Elvis Dominguez, the head coach of Bradley, he was out. He was incensed. He didn't want it to, first and second inning of a 3-game series. How surprised were you? And what did the umpire say was the reason? And they even got together and talked about it, and they didn't rescind the warning.
I was very surprised. I mean, it was obviously Bryce didn't have a great outing. He was up in the zone. He hit the guy with a breaking ball. He overthrew a slider, and it backed up. So he hit the guy with – we went back and looked at the chart. It was a 74-mile-an-hour breaking ball, not a pitch that you're using to send a message with, right? It's rare to have both head coaches out arguing the same call, usually, so that's usually a sign.
When you came out, I said, Jess, I'll bet you Dominguez comes out and he'll argue the same thing that Sawyers is.
Yeah, so that was odd. The thing that was kind of funny, though, how many more hit-by pitches were there that game?
Like 4.
And then they don't say anything about that, right?
And then one went behind a guy.
Yeah, so this is – I'm not going to comment on umpire.
Sure.
I think it was his first game back in college baseball. He'd worked some minor league stuff, and maybe there are some protocols they have to follow in minor league baseball.
What did he say, though?
He was like, you got to know where I'm coming from. And I said, well, where I'm coming from, you're not paying enough attention because that wasn't intentional. But he just kept, well, that's what we have to do. And I was like, no. Like, he hit him with the backup slider. Like, if we wanted to send a message, I promise you it would have been 90 mile an hour in the ribs. So, I just think that, first game back, because he told Keck, this is how we got to do it in the minor leagues. And this is kind of a funny story. Every SEC program has TrackMan. And the umpires are evaluated on TrackMan because they get a computer-generated Excel spreadsheet on the job they do in the strike zone that night.
Okay.
And I thought the zone was very fair. And all you want is fair and consistent, right? But the zone was on the smaller side on Friday. And
I agree.
A lot of times umpires, if they have a good rapport with the catcher, they'll ask them what they think from time to time. I know I took pride in working hard for my umpire when I was a catcher. And he asked Keck his opinion. And Keck's response was, hey, we don't have TrackMan in the OVC. You need to start calling more strikes. So, but because in the SEC or in schools that have that, the umpire gets a legitimate report.
Right.
And if you're calling balls off the plate, your score goes down. Where in college baseball with the aluminum bat, hey, man, if you're hitting a spot and it's a ball that's like 50-50 ball, half on, half off, I think we need that pitch called a strike in college baseball. But Keck was like, hey, there's no TrackMan here. You need to move that right arm a little more.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
So at least you tip your cap to the umpires. I didn't like the call at the time. I'm not criticizing the umpire. I just thought it seemed a little overreactive. But at least they got together and talked about it. They didn't rescind the warning, but then they didn't enforce the warning, which was –
yeah, I think we had 5 hit by pitches the rest of the game, and nobody said a word. So, obviously, I think they figured out that we were just trying to do our best.
Sure. Okay. I didn't want to, criticize the umpires. I never got to talk to you about it because it was kind of an odd thing. You don't see that. Now, if it's a conference game and you're in day 2 or day 3 and there's been yipping and yapping, okay, I can understand that. But, I mean, it's 5 batters into a game.
Second game of the first game of the series, 2 teams that haven't played in a decade. There's probably not much going on.
Not much going on. All right, I did want to we'll talk a lot more about your team as we go along. We're talking with Red Hawks head coach Andy Sawyer's Redhawks are off to their best start since they moved to Division I in 1991. They are 9-1. They are riding a 7-game winning streak, and they will play at Arkansas State at Tomlinson Stadium in Jonesboro tomorrow, 6 o'clock under the lights against the 4-5 Red Wolves. The story came out today as the two sides in Major League Baseball and the Players Union are trying to get it hashed out and end this lockout. But for the first time, we are told about some rule changes that are being discussed. All the focus is on the money and the pre-arbitration pool and the CBT/luxury tax and minimum salary and all. Those are the things that are grabbing the headlines. But for the first time, we got an ESPN article yesterday that said they are talking about a pitch clock, larger bases, which they've used in the minor leagues, and banning shifts, defensive shifts. I wanted to get your thoughts on those, but first of all, I want to talk about the pitch clock. Now, what they want to do in Major League Baseball is a 19-second time limit when there are no runners on base. And when there are runners on, dropping that to 14. College baseball has a pitch clock. You go to an SEC program, you see the clock over the outfield wall, and they use it. What are your thoughts on pitch clocks? And some fans may not know, we do have a pitch clock.
Yeah, so I'm in favor of it. Anything, I think there's twofold. One, I think coaches like an up-tempo game, right? We don't want a game. I know, SEMO great. Joey Lucchese was notorious for how long his games took because he would throw a pitch, and we always tell our guys, you have to keep your feet on the dirt. We don't want you coming on the grass because some guys want to stalk down to the halfway down to the catcher and shake his hand and get the ball back and then walk back. And we
Jess Bolin always says, listen, you don't have to go in front of the mound. The catcher has a strong enough arm to get it to you on the mound. Stay on the mound.
Yeah, so we ask our guys, you have to stay on the dirt. And another rule we have for like just teaching guys how to have good tempo is you can never show your back to the catcher. Because what happens is the two things go together. When a guy walks too far down, then he walks down, then he turns. If you are conscious about keeping your chest to the catcher, you stay on the mound because you don't want to walk backwards like 8 steps. It feels funky. And so, but anyways, I'm all for a great tempo and working quickly. And then I think from the growing the game standpoint, you want a quicker ball game. We don't want 4.5-hour baseball games. And so I'm for it. I think people may not realize that we have a pitch clock as well because there's not one installed in the stadium. I believe, if I remember this correctly, we were supposed to have to do that in 2021, but there was a lot of legislation that was kind of pushed pause due to COVID and financial reasons. So like we didn't have to install them. But if you notice, the third base umpire has a stopwatch in his hands at all times, and he is timing the pitches. And so I think one thing, if you've been paying close attention to our games this year, you've been seeing a lot of bad fake pickoffs. And basically the rule for college baseball is if you have 20 seconds and either a pickoff throw or a fake pickoff resets the clock. And so when you see a pitcher either get confused by the sign or he needs to step off and like get control of himself, get composed, you'll see him step off and do this really kind of fast little fake that doesn't fool anybody. But basically it's just a loophole because that arm action resets the 20-second clock. And then if you look back to our Game 3 win over Bellarmine, Anthony Klein finished the game for us with a 2-inning outing. He actually had a 3-ball walk because he stepped off and didn't do the fake, and he went longer than 20 seconds, and then a ball is the penalty. And so we actually had a 3-ball walk in the game against Bellarmine.
That explains why we're saying, Jess, that was only ball 3.
Yeah,
that explains because we were confused at the time.
I'm sure people thought I wasn't keeping track. Yeah, but that was the reason why we got the ball called on Anthony Klein. So we are dealing with it right now. I'm all for it. I think the thing that baseball coaches don't want is you have a freshman out there who's a little rattled and he needs a chance to have a way to get composed. And, when you're pitching good, you're going to have a good tempo. When things are going against you, you're giving up hits and walking people. We've all seen that pitcher step off, get behind the mound, take a deep breath, get reset, and then go back to work. And I think we want our guys to have the ability to do that. And I think there's that loophole in there about that pickoff throw allows them to reset and get their time back. So I'm fine with it. I think it'd be better for the fans if there was actually a visible clock so you wouldn't have, the confusion about why we had that walk, against Bellarmine or things like that. But I think that's coming to every Division I ballpark here in the near future.
So we do have a clock in college baseball. The shift is much more prominent in Major League Baseball, much more prominent. but we see it in college baseball. We see it with your team. You have shifted several times. You're not, you don't do it an overly large amount of time. But what do you think about banning the shift in college baseball, Major League Baseball?
I'm torn because I think it's an edge, and I think that as a big league manager and as the way the game is going and they're using technology and data to make decisions, part of me appreciates the level of them just trying to do a great job and get their guys in the right spots. The other part is it's hard to get hits right now in the big leagues, right? I mean, the BA is falling. I don't think it's as good. Hits in the big leagues are going down. I know they're hitting more home runs, but overall offense isn't. You look back to the great Cardinal teams with Whitey, those were such fun teams to watch. They'd drag bunt, they'd go first to third, they'd squeeze. You had all these guys flying around the field, and it was fun to watch. It was action. A big league game today is not the same way. They're hitting homers and they're striking out, and there's not as many hits. And I think fans, while a home run is exciting, nobody wants to see. There's multiple Cardinal games I watched last year where they won a game 2-1 or lost a game 3-2, and they had 4 hits and 2 solo homers, and that was the offense for the day. They scored all their runs in 10 seconds of action, and that's not exciting baseball. So I think the move to get more base hits and more base runners and more guys moving around, I think, is a good thing. I would probably, if I was asked, which no one has asked me, I'd probably be okay with it, but I'm not, hell bent on making that a rule or a policy change. I'm kind of indifferent, I guess, but I do understand why they're doing it.
You see it from both sides, pitching and hitting, as a coach, as a manager. What I think is interesting, I think you'd see a lot of hitters that would say, great, ban the shift, because it gives them, more open field. Pitchers will say, no, don't ban the shift. We know exactly why we're putting the shift on. But you have to look at it from both sides, whereas hitters are looking at banning the shift completely different.
Yeah, and part of it, it's I think everything in life there goes through cycles, right? So right now the pendulum in Major League Baseball has shifted towards the home run, and so we're putting more bigger, more physical men in lineups. We have more of a home run approach, and there's data that backs that up. It's harder to get hits. The stuff is better. You go in any big league game, you're going to see somebody throwing 98 miles an hour, out of the bullpen. It's harder to get hits, so make the hits count. If you're going to get 5 hits in a game, you might as well get 2 home runs in those 5 hits. So there's numbers that would say it's more important to slug, which is going to be more of a pull side approach. And then there's guys like Whitey Herzog, hit the ball the other way, get inside the ball, use the whole field, all those old school, hitting concepts that I think will come back in vogue because it's like a pendulum, right? It swings one way, then it'll come back. And I know, the Red Sox had a really good offense last year, and they made a conscious decision to be a little more traditional in their offensive approach and offensive philosophy. I know the Houston Astros have been, over the last 5 years, maybe the best offense in the major leagues, and they are, one thing they do for the last 5 years, they've been the hardest team to strike out in the big league. So, getting the ball in play and not striking out is more of a traditional, type concept. And so I think there's things in there that are going to go back to being how we think they used to be, right? But as for right now, you've got a lot of guys trying to hit a home run or nothing. I look back at, oh, God bless, guy with the Cardinals, left-hand hitter, used to be their leadoff hitter.
Tommy Ed?
Carpenter.
Oh, Matt Carpenter.
I thought Carp was a better hitter when he hit the ball to left field, once a week. Right now it's once a month.
The shift totally killed him.
It's like,
killed him.
Back he was in college. I remember him in college, and he was a use-the-whole-field guy. He was inside the ball. He'd get to the big leagues and had success, but started hitting home runs, and then it was like it was all or nothing. And then, that's painful, right? He still had some years where he hit home runs, but the one of my mentors in teaching hitting, a guy, it's a personal friend of mine, is David Segui. And David Segui was a 15-year big league guy.
I remember Segui.
Yeah,
he was a
good
good
switch
player.
hitter with the Expos and with the Orioles. And David taught me a lot about hitting. And one thing he told me is a home run hitter's got to be a lot more mentally tough than a singles guy. And I was like, what do you mean? And David said, well, you get positive reinforcement a lot less often, right? If you're a home run hitter and hit 1 home run a week in the big leagues, you can make a nice living doing that. Well, there's a lot of strikeouts if you're only getting one ball over the fence a week. And so, I think me personally, I would appreciate maybe not changing the rules of the game to ban the shift. Maybe I'd see more hitters like a Matt Carpenter not abandoning using the whole field, and maybe Carp could hit a couple more singles to left and not just selling out for the home run all the time. That'd be what I would prefer. But like I said, my email inbox has not been full with MLB asking my opinion on the subject.
Segui played with the Mets too, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah.
So you look at the shift. You don't see it a ton in college baseball. You see it.
Yeah.
You saw it quite a bit at Dallas Baptist for Lincoln Andrews. Mm-hmm. He's your first baseman. He's a pull guy. Although, ironically, his first hit in the series was to right field, and at left field. I mean, it was a check swing hit, but still. So he tried a couple of times to lay down a bunt up the third base line. That's the thing that used to drive Cardinal fans crazy. Is like Dave Carpenter. Just if you just put the ball on a bunt, and I mean, you're going to get a base hit. You can get them out of that shift if you constantly bunt it. He tried to do that. Is that something that you guys have talked about ahead of time, or did he do that on his own, or what?
He did it on his own, and I have called the bunt for him before. If you look back to Wade Stouse. Wade Stouse had one bunt hit last year. He did it at South Alabama in the second game of the year, and it affects the shift. The true shift is when you think about the shortstop plays deep, and then the third baseman goes across the bag, or at least the third baseman goes deep and the shortstop goes across the bag. What you're seeing now, guys who bunt, is they'll leave the shortstop or the third baseman in the baseline but over, which is like a halfway, like they're trying to get the best of both worlds a little bit. But we will bunt against it. We don't have a ton of guys. Lincoln Andrews will do it. I've told him not to do it in an RBI situation. It's a more of a to set an inning up, not if there's a guy to be driven in. But we'll do it. Wade Stouse had a bunt hit last year doing that against the shift. So we'll do it from time to time.
I wanted to ask you also, I mean, this is not college baseball, but kind of. The universal DH looks like it's coming. It seems super logical. I know fans, they don't want to see a pitcher go up there and strike out. I mean, they can't, sometimes they can't even get the bunt down. They can't put a ball in play. There are the exceptions, Jake Arrieta and Madison Bumgarner and some of these guys that can swing it. Adam Wainwright in his prime was a pretty good hitter. But if you look at college baseball, pitchers never hit. Minor league baseball, they don't hit. They've got the DH. Pitchers can go an entire collegiate career, minor league career, never swing the bat until they get the big leagues. Now they gotta swing a bat a little bit.
Yeah.
You like the DH?
I'm a purist, so I would prefer the National League game, but that's going to go away. I think the argument for the DH is that it provides for some moments of strategy. So if you have like the goddess of justice with her scales and she's blind, right?
Right.
You on one side you have like the bit of strategy. You've got Tony La Russa game planning the double switch, and that's fun if you're a baseball purist. Or you get JD Martinez getting 4 at-bats a game. I know what I like better, and I'm a baseball fan too. So I think the balance of the bit of strategy that having to manage that spot in the order against having a competent hitter give us 4 or 5 good at-bats, I think the value of a better game and more excitement would lend itself towards the DH, even though I'm a National League fan at heart, so I do appreciate that. But it's going to go. If it doesn't happen, it's gone. The days of the National League game are over.
And, as a manager, you're in a tight game. You're in the 5th inning. Your pitcher's throwing well. He's still got plenty of bullets in the arm. He could probably get another couple of innings out of him. And the pitcher spot comes up, 2 on, 1 out. Do you pull the pitcher? Do you let him go up there and hit? You got a chance right now to strike and get a run? Or do you send the pitcher up there and he wrecks the inning by hitting into a double play? So that strategy's gone. You don't have to worry about, am I going to pinch hit for my pitcher?
What percentage of the population appreciates that decision, right? Like, I'm sure there's some nerds like me that are like, ooh, what's Tony La Russa thinking right here? Is he going to let this guy go out? Or, but like the percentage of the population that would rather agonize with the manager to make that choice, or you'd rather see, Albert Pujols having a place where if Albert had to play the field every day, he couldn't be in the big leagues anymore. But the fact that he gets the DH so much, now we still get to see, even though it's a diminished version of Albert, we still get to see Albert Pujols playing big league baseball. Like, I think the vast majority of the baseball population is going to want to see the guy hit.
And for those who don't know, you grew up a San Francisco Giants fan.
Yeah, yes, very much so. Grew up in the mountains of Northern California and liked the A's and the Giants, but I liked the Giants better. So we didn't have a TV in our house, and so I grew up with baseball on the radio, listening to the Giants probably 150 games a year on the radio. My mom taught me how to keep score on the old scorebook listening to Giants games on the radio.
What was his last name?
Lon Simmons.
Lon Simmons, the old. I mean, he was around when Willie Mays hit his 600th home run. It was called by Lon Simmons.
Yeah, a lot of. I've told you before. I've thought about being a broadcaster, doing games on the radio. But like Mike Krukow does the Giants games, still does the Giants, does TV now. But Mike Krukow played college baseball with my high school baseball coach. So I got to meet him a couple times.
He pairs with Dwayne Kuiper on television, the best play-by-play baseball man in the world. Now that Vin Scully has retired, is John Miller. He's my all-time favorite. He calls the Giants. Yeah. There is nobody better than John Miller.
We've had some good ones. So, I mean, if you're going to have to grow up without a TV and listen to games on the radio, I had some good ones to listen to.
See, now I'm a Cubs fan, so I grew up as a Cubs fan. I saw Krukow pitch for the Cubs.
Yeah. Kruk and Kipe is what they call him back home.
All right, we'll take a timeout. The Red Hawks, by the way, have just in that series this weekend raised their team batting average 20 points from 281 to 301, and they've scored 77 runs in their last 6 games. They have outscored their opponents during that stretch by 42 runs, 77-35. That's pretty good.
The boys they're hot right now.
We'll take a timeout. When we come back, talk a little bit more with head coach Andy Sawyers, because the Red Hawks are getting set to head to Jonesboro, Arkansas. And how about the OVC? They've gotten off to a really strong start here early in the season in baseball. We'll talk about it with Coach Andy Sawyers when we come back to Wings Etc. in Jackson. It's the Red Hawks Coaches Show on SEMO ESPN.
Bar, Wings Etc.
Jackson today. We'll be back in the Cape location next week. And the following week, this is the first of our 5 spring coaches shows. And, of course, it is the home of the coaches shows, Wings Etc., where if you're coming for lunch, don't forget they've got daily half-pound lunch specials that start at just $7.99. And if you want to watch, as we've got championship week, all the college basketball tournaments, you can watch them all in high definition at Wings Etc. in both Cape and Jackson. And did you know that you can get Wings Etc. delivered to you wherever you are? And that is because of the DoorDash app. They are in unison now with DoorDash. You download it free on your smartphone, set up your account, take you a couple of minutes, and boom, you can go online, find what you want on the terrific menu, which has over 70 different items other than their award-winning wings, and you can get it delivered right to your front door through the DoorDash app. It is the home of the Coaches Show. Good food, great times, wings, etc. Coach Andy Sawyers is here. We're talking Red Hawks baseball. The Red Hawks, last year, you were not a big home run hitting team. I don't know if you're going to be this year. You are currently. We'll see. It's a long season. We'll see. You hit some home runs early last year, and some guys kind of slowed down. Still had good years. Just, you weren't a home run hitting team. You were a championship team. So through 10 games last year, you had 6 home runs. 6. Through 10 games this year, you have 20 home runs. So obviously that's plus 14 if we do the quick math. But all of a sudden, you're hitting the ball out of the ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly are, and there's a couple of reasons. You've got guys who are a year older, a year stronger, more physical, and I think when you look at the progress a hitter makes, I think it's always like you start with consistent hard contact, and then you can teach them how to elevate the baseball. And so we've got guys that they're kind of finishing that process off. If you look at hitters in the big leagues, power, you'll see a guy be a good hitter in the big leagues and then add power as he grows older.
Right.
And I think we're kind of finishing off that process, a lot of our guys, and I think, some guys have just done a good job developing, and I've been trying to sing this kid's praises for a long time. But our hitting coach Trevor Ezell, I mean, our Red Hawk fans know Trevor is a great player for SEMO, but he's our hitting coach now, and he's doing a really good job. And he was a guy that when he was a player, he's not the biggest guy. He's under 6 feet tall, but he had power, and I think
from both sides of the plate.
Yeah, I just think that if you watch us hit right now and watch our approach to hitting, I think you're seeing a lot of Trevor Ezell in our guys, and I'm really excited for Trevor and proud of him and excited for the job he's doing as our hitting coach. I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Talking to a scout the other day, and we were talking about Trevor, and I thought it was pretty funny because, he said I'd had some discussions because I brought him up. I brought up Ezell. And he said, I talked to some other scouts, and they're like, yeah, he's good for this level. Let him try to hit SEC pitching. Then we'll know if he's a prospect or not. Okay. His final year, he went to the SEC, and he was the best hitter on the Arkansas Razorbacks that probably could have gone to the College World Series. I mean,
they did.
Yes.
They did play.
Oh, they did play.
Yeah, they did. It's like, I think that's the knock on some of the offensive players in our league is they don't see top shelf velo often enough. Justin Durden had a great year in pro ball last year. He had like 285, 15 homers. He led his team in BA homers and doubles. Had a great year offensively. Justin Durden has a chance to hit his way to the big leagues, and he had to sign as an undrafted free agent during that COVID year during 21. Like, he was the best hitter in the country when this season stopped. He was leading our league in batting average, home runs, stolen bases, outfield assists, every category the kid was in. He was leading the league in it. But the comment from scouts was, yeah, but, how does he do against 95, Andy? I'm like, well, we don't see that every day in our league, I know he's really good at 88 to 92, and so I think sometimes the guys at our level get knocked, position players, just because we don't see top shelf velo often enough. But I think what hurt Trevor more than anything was his medical. He's a guy that had multiple surgeries when he was in college and had a bad back and had shoulder surgeries, and I just think they didn't want to take that medical. I mean, his stack of papers was 6 inches thick, but. No, he was a fantastic college player, and you could have taken Trevor Ezell when he was a sophomore in college and dropped him into a double-A game, and he would have given you a good at-bat. I mean, he could really give you a good at-bat, and our players are, I think, competing with some of him inside of him right now.
I thought it was funny when I heard that he was transferring to Arkansas, and I know the story when Steve Beazer recruited Trevor Ezell, he committed to SEMO. Arkansas was not on him, and then at the last minute, Arkansas gave him the full court press. Come to Arkansas, forget SEMO. We want you to be a Razorback, and he honored his commitment to this university and to that baseball coach, and he came to SEMO. Now he's an Arkansas guy. He had a medical red shirt 1 year, so he had a year of eligibility. He went and played for the Razorbacks, and I remember when I heard that he was going to play for Arkansas, I thought back to how they blew the College World Series. If that second baseman catches a pop-up, Arkansas wins the national championship. And I said, if Trevor Ezell was on that team, they would be national champions because he would have caught that baseball.
He would have. He would have. But he wasn't. I'm glad he was at SEMO.
Yeah. Okay, so your team, as you get ready to head to, it's just a one-game matchup with Arkansas State. Your next series will be Valparaiso at home this weekend. But dating back to last year, you have won 11 consecutive series. 11 consecutive series. That's hard to do.
Yeah, we've been really consistent. That's what we did last year. I mean, last year, we're talking about the offensive numbers right now because how good we're going offensively. But, last year we weren't an offensive juggernaut, but we played very good baseball. We were very clean and defended it well, and we've won 11 in a row, and I think it's like 17 of the last 20, honestly. So we've been playing good baseball and consistent. That's, for us, that's one thing I talked about before we played Bradley is like at some point we're going to have a hiccup. Like we're good. Obviously, we've won 7 in a row. But we're gonna lose a game. It's baseball. You're gonna lose games. But like we talked about, like what a hiccup needs to be. A hiccup needs to be we didn't play well today, but we found a way to win a series. And so we've done that. We lost games last year when we won the OVC, but we kept winning series. And so that's something that I think we've talked about a lot, and our kids take pride in. It's like we want to win the weekend, no matter what happens. In each game, we want to win the weekend.
I thought it was interesting. I believe it was 2019. You finished second in the OVC. Was it 2018 maybe?
2018 we finished second.
Okay, so that year you finished second, I think, to Tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that their big year? So in 2018 you finished second, but you really struggled in midweek games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your overall record was not great, but you finished second in the league. You played very well because your weekend rotation was good, and midweek you were searching to get some pitching in midweek games. Well, how do you feel that you are this year? You played the midweek game against St. Louis. You won 16-5. You'll play another midweek game tomorrow. You said before the season, I think the depth of our bullpen could be the strength of the team. Well, if you've got a deep bullpen, you're going to find some midweek pitching.
Yeah, so that's the thing that we're constantly trying to figure out, at least with this year's group, is like who's going to be the starters. I know you and I talked in the preseason, and it was like, here's who our starters are going to be for Dallas Baptist. I do not think that's going to be there in a month because we have guys without starting experience, and you never know. And, Bryce Grocius earned the opening day start, hasn't been great. We moved Jason Rackers into the rotation this weekend. I thought he pitched well under really tough conditions. One was blowing out 30 miles an hour. I thought he pitched well. Noah Nisnik gave us another start. Another good one this weekend. Tommy Wint has been pitching as good as anybody on our team. He leads our staff and opponents BA against and leads our team in strikeouts.
Is he a potential starter,
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Wint?
Yeah, so I think you're going to probably see Tommy Wint get an opportunity probably this Sunday. It's a little preview of the rotation, but you don't know, right? Like it's not the major leagues where, hey, we've got this, Waino. If Waino was on the Cardinals, he's a starting pitcher. The day he's not a starting pitcher, he's retired, right? They're not going to move him to the bullpen and ask him to be the 7th inning guy. But we're different than that. It's college baseball, and we're still trying to grow kids up and get them in roles. And I feel like our starting rotation is going to be in flux probably for the first 6 weeks of the season, hopefully, until we get it locked down. And so we're going to probably give Tommy Wint an opportunity this weekend and keep moving it. The bullpen has been the strength of our team. We've pitched it very well out of the bullpen. Kyle Miller anchors that at the back end.
You talk about guys that are walking around the mound and behind the mound and the whole thing. Kyle Miller never moves. He stands on the rubber with looking over his glove. It's a supreme show of confidence, and I think it can, to a weak-minded hitter, it might be a little intimidating.
We've talked to our other guys about Kyle's body language, and it says if you're a hitter, I think some of the time he gets you out because he convinces you that he's better than you before he has to throw you a pitch. So here's a good Kyle Miller story. We used him. We had a doubleheader on Saturday. He got an 8-pitch ninth inning for an 8-pitch save, crushed him in the ninth inning. He walks up to me and says, "I'm good for game 2," before I've even got game 2 lineup written. So we have a close game going in game 2 of the doubleheader, and if you saw, Kyle Miller was hot in the bullpen.
I saw him warming up.
At the time, I think it was 9-7. I think it was 9-7 at the time. Kyle is hot. He's ready to go in the ninth inning, and then we score 3, I believe, in the bottom of the 8th to make it 12-7. And at that point, Blake Cisneros, who's one of our short relievers and a good arm, and we trust him a lot, Blake hadn't pitched yet on the weekend. And Lincoln Andrews the ball over the bag for the double in the corner to drive in the run. So Lincoln hits the ball, goes to second base, and I turn around and I tell the bullpen because I'm close to him, and I'm like, Miller's done. Sis is in the game. Not that Sis couldn't pitch with a lead, but it's a save situation. Kyle's going to get the ball. And Kyle was extremely mad, I found out later. He went and sulked in the corner of the bullpen for the 9th inning because he wanted to finish the game. He didn't care that he'd already pitched that day. He wanted to pitch the 9th inning. And Sis hadn't pitched the inning. He needed an inning of work. The game got spread out. It was no longer a save situation. Let Sis go pitch the 9th. And we have an inversion table, one of those things. If you have a bad back, you can spin upside down. And Miller Band went and sat in the inversion table and sat there by himself for the 9th inning because he was upset he didn't get to pitch the second time that day.
Okay, you mentioned Jason Rackers. I don't think maybe the average SEMO baseball fan knows. If you listen to the radio, you would know. You've got a guy on your team that pitched in the College World Series last year for the University of Tennessee, and his name is Jason Rackers. What's the story on him? How did you get him? And you had a previous relationship with him, right?
Yeah, so, the transfer portal is something that is a development in today's college sports, and I think kids are transferring too much and too often. Maybe they leave if they don't get the right opportunity or play as fast as they think they should. But Jason Rackers, a young man from Jeff City, Missouri. I recruited him out of high school. He didn't come to SEMO right away. He went to Jeffco. He was a prospect, and he had scouts tell him that he was going to have a chance to sign a pro contract out of high school. He did. I think he turned down a pretty big contract after his freshman year at Jeffco. Went back for his sophomore year, signs with Tennessee. Goes to Tennessee. His sophomore year in junior college, he was ranked as the number 2 pro prospect in all of junior college baseball. So he's a dude. He goes to Tennessee, and he blows up. He has Tommy John surgery. And so he has surgery, and then last year was his year coming to back. And he did not pitch poorly. He was under a 3 ERA at Tennessee, which is a good ERA.
In the SEC, too.
Yeah. But he was very inconsistent with his stuff. He'd be 94 one day and 86 the next. And Tennessee was a College World Series team. They had lots of good pitching last year. They didn't trust him enough to pitch him very much. He only threw 10 innings. And he wanted a chance to not just be another guy down in the bullpen that pitches on Tuesday blowouts at Tennessee. He wanted to pitch significant innings and have a chance because he knew from a chance to play pro ball, he needed to be the guy. Well, we'd already recruited him, so we had a prior relationship. We recruited him out of high school. And then also his advisor, you can't say agent, but his advisor was also Dylan Dodd's advisor. And so we just had a senior go in the 3rd round. He is going to be a senior as well. It's like, hey, SEMO just had a guy the same situation as you get drafted in a good spot. SEMO is a spot that you could go do the same thing. And so we had prior relationship. There was a relationship with his advisor, and it was a good get for us. It went down to the very last minute. He said yes to SEMO with less than a week before classes starting.
Wow.
I'd held out, and it's fun how recruiting goes. There was a young man out of California that I'd been recruiting the whole time, a really good shortstop named Cedric Perez. What a great baseball, Cedric Perez.
That's good.
And he was a shortstop, and he could really play. And Tyler Wilbur says, Coach, I'm going to come back. I didn't get drafted. And I was about to go sign this other young man out of California. The last California shortstop we had worked out pretty good. So then I pumped the brakes, and it was like, well, maybe there's a chance we can add a transfer arm instead. And then the coaches from Tennessee are the ones that actually put me on to Rackers because, hey, man, this guy, he wants to go someplace where he's going to pitch. We think he'd be a great fit for you. And they were trying to help us with that whole situation. So we thought we were going to end up taking another guy. And
you have a relationship with Tennessee? I know their head coach used to be at Missouri.
Yeah, Tony's a good friend of mine. I coached against Tony when Tony was a player, and we've been friends for a long time.
I think Tony was there when Max Scherzer was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tony was the assistant there. The video coordinator at Tennessee is one of the best friends of my whole life. His name is Sean McCann. Sean was the pitching coach at Missouri who actually recruited Max Scherzer to Missouri, and Sean is the video coordinator. He had some health issues. When I was at Kansas State, Sean was the pitching coach at Kansas State, and then he had some health issues, and he doesn't – recruiting and travel is not what's in his best interest from a health standpoint. So Sean got on-field coaching stuff and is their video coordinator. So, yeah, we've got – and then Frank Anderson, their pitching coach. I've known Frank forever. We fought each other for 20 years in the Big 12 because he was at Texas Tech, Texas, and then Oklahoma State all the time, where I was at Nebraska, A&M, and Kansas State. So coached against those guys for forever, and they thought we would be a great fit for Jason. So they were like, hey, man, like SEMO would be a good spot for you.
What are you seeing from Rackers when you watch him pitch, and where's the velocity at? Because scouts. I mean, they're locked in. What's he hitting on the gun, right?
Yeah, so he's in the middle. It was interesting. They said at Tennessee he'd be like 94 one day and 87 the next. He's neither, really. He has been 90 to 93, pitching at 90, 91 consistently, but he'll touch you a 3. So he's not as soft as he was on his bad days at Tennessee. He's not throwing as hard as he was on his good days, but he's also giving us long outings, too. It's not like it's a one-inning, go blow it out for 15 pitches, because I think if we treated him like that, a one-inning guy, I think he would throw you some 4s and 5s. But every outing he's had has been at least 3 innings, so we're stretching him out and letting him pitch. So he's kind of settled into that 90-93 range. But the thing I'm impressed with is he's pitched off the slider and the changeup really well. His outing against Dallas Baptist, he gave us a long outing in that Saturday game we won at Dallas Baptist, and they've got some really good left-hand hitters, and he was getting them with the changeup really good. So, like, he's been more of a pitcher than I thought. I thought he was just going to be some big guy that chucked it up there hard. He's actually shown flashes of pretty good pitchability. So, like, I've been pleased with that. And more importantly, he's been a great teammate. I think anytime you take a guy from a really big school,
right.
He was in the College World Series a year ago, and he's going to come to SEMO. Like, is he going to be happy? Is he going to big league our guys and tell everybody how many pairs of orange tennis shoes he got a year ago, right? Like, but he's been a wonderful teammate. He's been awesome. Like, he picks up the dugout after games. He's like does all the little jobs, Like, he's been great. He's been a great addition, and he's super popular with the team. Like, you can tell if he was not acting appropriately or kind of big leaguing our guys, but like our team loves him. Like, he's super popular. Like, I'm really, really glad he's here. Not only is he a good arm, but he's a good teammate, and our guys love him.
So before you had your indoor hitting facility, you had the outdoor cages up the left field line, and I know you kind of, and you would hit inside.
Those were there before they turfed Kappahaw. So, like, for what you think of Kappahaw, those were always there. When we did the turf project and reconfigured it, they went down because we were supposed to build the indoor at the same time. Well, it didn't happen, as you know. Like, it took 4 years to get that built. So we coached there for 3 years without a batting cage.
So the new cages, or your indoor hitting facility, is this year 2?
Year 3. We got them done in the 21 year, the COVID year.
Okay. So how much do you credit that facility with helping your hitters? Explain how invaluable that indoor hitting facility is for your program, not only your hitters but also your recruiting.
I mean, I don't know if I can overstate it. Hitting is something that it's not football. If you're a linebacker, you don't go tackle extra after practice, right? But if you think of good shooters in basketball, good shooters shoot, right? Like, if you're hanging out in the gym, you will see SEMO shooters shooting. We led the league in 3-point field goals. I promise you they don't only shoot during practice time, right? Shooting is something they do all the time. So is hitting. And in the old days, guys had access. There was 2 cages in Houck, and we were grateful for what we had, right? But, like, it was a 30-minute process to lower the nets, drag the screens in, drag in turf that you could stand on to hit. I mean, you had to really want to hit on your own to go through the 30 minutes of work just to get it set up. And now, we're lucky. There's a code on the door that our kids have access to. Like, I promise you, Tyler Wilbur was in there this morning. He punches the code into the door. He walks in. It's there. It's, like, it's convenient. It's nice. First of all, it's a great setup. But it's
central heating and central air conditioning in there.
So it's made it easier for our guys to have a good work ethic, is what I would say. I mean, obviously the guys, Trevor Zell played here in the old setup, and Trevor would go in there every morning and he'd do the 30 minutes. Not everybody's Trevor Zell, unfortunately. I wish they all were, but they're not. But now, even the guys that maybe they know they need some extra swings, but they don't want to, work that, they can do it, right? So it's been really good, and it's helped us on bad weather days. You'd be shocked at how much work you know with the turf field. If it's 25 degrees but the wind's not blowing, we'll still get working. We'll go outside, we'll stretch, we'll play catch, we'll do 20 minutes of ground balls, we'll be outside for 45 minutes, it's 25 degrees, and then hop inside and hit. And we can still be productive with bad weather. In the old days, with the real surface, the natural surface, not the indoor, I mean, you're doing the best you can. And we practice a lot in the rec center before we went to Dallas Baptist. I promise you, Red over there in the rec center, he's tired of me walking over and saying, "Hey, man, can we look at the schedule? Hey, tennis doesn't need to practice. Mary Beth's good enough. Can you get them out of here? And we need to take some ground balls." It's a challenge, but, like, we can get a lot done. If it's If the weather's remotely close, 25, 28, we'll let them wear stocking caps and hoodies and everything, and we'll stretch, play catch, go take our ground balls, get some work in, and then go inside and hit. And then the two things being together make that so much easier, and it's not ideal, but it's certainly light years ahead of where it used to be in terms of functionality and getting guys to get their work in.
In addition to being a baseball coach, you have to be a weatherman if you're a baseball coach.
I'm not a very good one, so
well, So I've looked ahead, and things can change by this weekend. Valparaiso's coming in here. It's supposed to rain Friday. It's supposed to be a high of 34 degrees on Saturday, and we're in the 50s on Sunday. What would you put a percentage on that we play one on Saturday and a doubleheader on Sunday?
I would say pretty high at this point. The thing that's interesting is if you dive into that forecast, we might get an inch of snow on Friday.
I saw that.
So we shoveled the snow before we played Bellarmine. We had ice on the field, and I was proud of our kids. We were actually in the rec center, and I was sitting over on my phone looking at the temps because it was supposed to get to 37, and it was like 12:30, and it was still 31. And Cisneros, who's been here for long enough, he knows my moods, and he walked up and he's like, "What's the matter?" And I said, "It's only going to get to 31, sis. He's like, we're going to shovel the field, aren't we?" And I was like, "You bet you're behind we are." And so we were able to drive over the ice with like a gator and break it up, and then there really wasn't that much. And then once it was broken up, we just took snow shovels and acted like brooms and pushed it all onto windrows, and it took us 3 hours, but we got the whole field cleared off in 3 hours. I'm guessing we might be doing the same thing on Saturday to get rid of that snow because it's going to be warm enough to play on Sunday, but I don't think we'll get it melted in time to play, especially 2. Because we play 2, we'll need to be going by 1 o'clock at the latest. It's a travel day for Valparaiso. And so if we want to play baseball on Sunday and there's snow on the ground, we might need to have to move it. So.
I found out something today. They are no longer the Valparaiso Crusaders, as they have been forever. They changed their nickname last year. They are the Valparaiso Beacons.
Let's go Beacons.
A beacon of so they are the Beacons. So what year was it? We got all the snow, and you called Coach Tuke, and the football team came and helped you shovel all the snow off the field.
That was 2019.
Okay.
We played Western Michigan, and that was one of my proudest moments at SEMO. It was like how everybody came together to help us out. You know, Coach Beezer, I basically tried to copy his schedule for my first couple years here, and they played at home, I think, in 2017 or 2016. Is basically every other year he tried to play at home. And my first year we went to Texas, and it was 60 in Texas and 55 in Cape Girardeau. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try to schedule a home weekend to open it up. And then in 2019, we're supposed to play at home, and it was 3 inches of snow on the ground. So obviously that didn't work out. And then we called Tuke, and we had the whole football team there shoveling. I said immediately, I knew why Santa was going to be good for our football team because Santa Catarina was down there shoveling snow all afternoon so we could play baseball. If your best players got that type of leadership, you're going to have a good football team. But hopefully we don't have 3 inches. Hopefully it's just like, ½ inch to an inch, and we can move it easily. But I'm guessing right now, best case scenario, if the forecast holds true, is try to play 1 early in the day on Friday, not play on Saturday, and try to play 2 on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
That would be best.
I figured if there was a way, if it's over 50 degrees, you go a doublehead. Now, you also played a 7 and a 9 against Bradley this weekend. Why did you do that, and is that a possibility for the doubleheader Sunday?
It's always a possibility. I don't like to play a 7 and 9 right now, and I'll tell you why, because I think we have a better bullpen than everybody else. We have realistically, and I haven't always been able to say this, I think we've had the better bullpen in every game we've been in. We had a better bullpen than Dallas Baptist. They blew 2 leads against us. We've had a better bullpen than Bellarmine. We had a better bullpen than Bradley. If you have a better bullpen, you want to play a 9-inning game.
Sure.
The deal with Bradley was they play a 7 and a 9 in their conference. And so when I called him and said, I don't know if we can play on Sunday, I think we need to play 2 on Saturday, he said, I'm fine. It needs to be a 7 and a 9. And I didn't know if that was him putting us – because he doesn't have to play a doubleheader. He can say, nope, we're going to play 1, and if we don't get to play on Saturday, then we're rained out. I thought we had a better team. I thought we were going to win. But when he said we'll play a 7 and 9, I said, okay, we'll do that. But a lot of people will do that on doubleheader day. And what we'll do is, and we did this, I don't know if you know this, if the 7-inning game, we play that one first. If that one goes extra innings, then the second game converts to the 7-inning game. So you can still play the limited innings. So that's what we did on Saturday with Bradley.
And to put an exclamation point on, you had a better bullpen than Dallas Baptist. They brought in their first team all-conference closer, and you racked him.
Yeah.
You racked him, and your right fielder,
Joel Vasky.
Hit a 3-run opposite field homer, and that was the end of his day.
That's right. I'm not convinced he's healthy. They haven't told me. I've asked them. They say, "Oh, he's fine, Andy," but I don't know if he is. They would have used him differently if he'd been healthy.
You hit him like he was an NAIA pitcher.
Yeah, well, we hit him good. I know that. We hit him good.
All right, scouting report on Arkansas State. I know they're 4-5. They're picked to finish 12th in the Sun Belt. So nobody's expecting a big year from Arkansas State, but we'll see.
Tennessee Tech was picked to finish like 9th in the OVC or something like that, and they're undefeated right now. So sometimes that preseason stuff isn't always accurate. They had not been pitching it good. They pitched it really good this weekend, though. They won 2 out of 3 from Illinois State. Illinois State is a team that won opening day at Arkansas and then played 2 close games, had a chance to win all 3, but they beat Arkansas opening day at Arkansas, so I know Illinois State's got a good club. They just took 2 out of 3 from Illinois State. Overall, their pitching numbers haven't been great, but they pitched it good this weekend. So I don't know if maybe they just got off to a slow start,
sure,
or maybe it was a good weekend for them this weekend. I do know that their park is big, and I think it's
the
set
ball.
up.
It just you don't hit home runs there.
I think it's set up backwards for us. So this is what I think happened this weekend. We was howling out this weekend. They played a 2-1 game on Saturday when we had all those home runs hit. I think they had that same amount of wind, but I think it was blowing straight in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And then you get it's hard to score, then that favors the underdog, right? So I bet they had that stiff wind that we had. I bet it was coming straight in.
It doesn't seem like the ball carries there.
I think in my time here, we've only had one player at SEMO hit a home run there, and it was Wade Stouse, and Wade Stouse has done it twice. But every time we go there, ball doesn't leave the yard.
It's always been that way. You look at the Arkansas State guys, and there's nobody that is like a 15-homer guy ever.
It's a tough place to hit.
All right, Coach. It'll be 6 o'clock tomorrow night under the lights. What time's the bus leave?
Bus leaving at 1 o'clock.
Okay, I'll be there. All right, we'll see you then, Coach.
Thanks
so much for your time. That is Coach Andy Sawyers, and that is the Red Hawks Coaches Show from Wings Etc. We'll be in the Cape location. Don't forget, next week. And the Red Hawks play the Red Wolves down in Jonesboro. Red Hawks have a RPI of 49 right now. That is the highest since Andy Sawyers took over as the head baseball coach. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday, everybody. So long from the Coaches Show at Wings Etc.